people are like, what do you mean? You mean like soccer? You mean, what are you talking about? That's not right. We can't have a shootout. And then guess what happens? And people love the shootout. And then you see 3-on-3, which might have been the smartest thing that the hockey world has ever done, because I don't know if there's anything more exciting than having the best players in the world. You got three of them on the ice and they go head to head. It is a track meet and it is phenomenal. And now we have, speaking of phenomenal, you read certain people's resumes, you know the name, you know who they are, and then you read the Patrick resume of the family, and it is a piece of hockey history. And for Craig to join us here this morning, so thrilled. Craig Patrick, thanks so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Mike. It's great to be here.
Well, what a interesting idea to do this. Very often you could be sitting around with a buddy or business partners, and someone says, you know what? I got a great idea. And then someone has a sip of their beer and says, yeah, we're not doing that. This, I think, with someone coming forward, or however that process was, 3-on-3 hockey clearly is one of the most exciting things we have of all time in the game of hockey.
It definitely is. It's very entertaining. I've loved watching it just in the brief time it's been around, but it's really, really exciting. And we're hoping that we're going to tweak it a little bit so it's even more exciting in terms of it's going to be constant play all the time, constant action.
Is it so in the inception of this becoming an actual league? I mean, there's a lot of things obviously going on from a business standpoint to make this happen, but obviously globally, we see what the world has gone through with COVID-19. So how does this all come together, and you being the commissioner?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't realize this, but lots of people have done 3-on-3 since it started, since the NHL instituted it. In summer leagues or in whatever capacity they do it. But this group that I got involved with, that approached me, you remember Eddie Johnson, the goalie?
Yep. Of course, yep.
And won a couple of Stanley Cups with Boston.
Yeah.
He was coach and GM in Pittsburgh for a long time. His son, Eddie, or he goes by EJ, his son EJ, went to training camp like 3 or 4 years ago, the Penguins training camp, sat with his dad and Jimmy Rutherford and Bill Guerin, and they were watching the rookies play 3-on-3. He said, wow, this is exciting. And there was training camp in Pittsburgh. It's pretty full. They have a small arena, but it was packed. And the fans were going crazy. And he just sat there thinking, sucking it all in and go, wow, this is something special. So that was like 4 years ago. And he started thinking about it, and he decided he was going to do it. And he, as I mentioned, lots of people have tried it, just on their own small scale. But he's from the media background, from Hollywood, he did TV shows. He has that background, the media background, and he could put it all together. He's got CBS, he's got TSN, he's got RDS, all ready to go. And that's how it started. And then he approached me and asked if I'd be interested in being the commissioner. Whoa, yeah.
So Craig, so great to talk to you. Your list of coaches right now is almost like a who's who of the Hall of Fame. You look down the list, it's outstanding. Your player base, where are the teams? Because there's going to be 8 teams, 6 skaters, 1 goalie. Where are the player base going to be grabbed from? Are they going to be semi-pros? Are they going to be, because I don't think NHLers are allowed to do both leagues, are they?
No, it won't be anybody that's under any contract anywhere.
Right.
Be people that actually the ideal player will be a guy who's played in the NHL, isn't really suited best for 5-on-5 hockey, but is perfect guy for 3-on-3 hockey, meaning real fast, real skilled, maybe not a big body, not great on the boards, but great skill set. And maybe 25 to 35 years old, that's no longer part of the 5-on-5 NHL game that they need to play, who we feel will fit perfectly in the type of game we want.
We're in conversation with Craig Patrick here on Newstalk Sauga 960. We were talking about 3-Ice, a 3-on-3 hockey league that, and Craig, as you said, it's been done in on a smaller scale, all over the place, but nothing like this. This will feel very different. And as you mentioned beforehand, interest from big broadcasters. And as I said, very often when we have certain people on who are involved with a sporting league, our very good friend Pierre McGuire, who will also he'll use the term, the guy's a lifer. The guy's a lifer. Well, there's no question, Craig, you would definitely be in that category as a lifer. When you win a professional trophy that is named after your grandfather, something tells me that the family might slightly be involved in that league, because it really is, Craig, in reading all that you have done, it's a piece of hockey history. There's really nothing that you have not done. And so I guess you get to a certain point in your life and you figure, either I'm just going to be really good at golf or fishing, or are you Craig Patrick that says, you know what, I'm not finished yet, I want to do something else. So when it weighed for you in actually making that decision, it sounds like relatively quickly you said, yeah, I'm in on this.
Definitely. Well, when I just like the product itself, and regardless of whether we were doing it, but I just like 3-on-3 hockey. It reminds me of, and probably you too, of being a kid out in the pond or an outdoor rink somewhere, just playing the game of hockey because you loved it. And it's all about skill and speed. And part of our league is there's not going to be any intentional hitting, no fighting. I mean, that's not part of our game. It's going to be strictly skill. And I can't wait to see it myself. And we're gonna, you mentioned 8 teams, but it's really going to be 9 teams, because we're going to need an extra set of people for injuries or whatever we might encounter. So it'll be really, we're going to have a training camp, we're going to have a draft, and hopefully the coaches pick the right guys.
Yeah. Well, they're awesome coaches, Craig. So I don't see any doubt about that. As far as the tour stops are concerned, do we have any idea of the cities that are they going to bid for this, or are you going to approach cities? I'm crossing my fingers that Toronto's part of this list, because it should be, Craig. It should be.
I think we're narrowed it down to. I'm not part of the process, but I get the information that we're probably down to 15 cities, mostly in the northeast U.S. and Canada, and Toronto for sure.
Yeah, of course, Toronto thinks that they should be involved in everything.
That's true.
Except unfortunately for holding a Stanley Cup over their head, but we're still waiting for that one. As I said, when you look at some of these cities, and maybe it's just a real reflection, Craig, the changes that we've seen in Hockey USA, the changes that we've seen where hockey players come from, where they're cultivated from. To me, so I will be turning 57 soon, I never in my lifetime thought that you could go to Arizona State, that you could go down, you could play hockey in Louisiana, that quite honestly, the number and the quality of player that comes out of that program now, Hockey USA, it simply is, it's almost staggering, Craig, when you think about it. If you go back to, I don't know, maybe the 70s, but for you, where did that line come in where Hockey USA really started, even maybe a philosophical change to get the high quality that you see now coming out of Hockey USA?
That's a good question. I turned pro in '71, and there were 4 U.S. players in the league at the time, and now I don't know what the number is, but the population. I mean, there's a pretty good sized population in the United States, and at some point they took a huge interest in hockey, whether it was expansion or 1980 gold medal. Who knows what really got people excited about playing the game. I know as a kid, and I was in the 1950s, I was growing up outside Boston, and we had a handful of people that were we'd get outside and skate all the time, and we were big Bruins fans, but there was just a handful. Now it's like Boston's a hotbed as big as there is in the United States. So it's amazing how it's grown. I think Bobby Orr probably got it going in Boston. Yeah, it takes something like that. Now Pittsburgh's huge because of Mario. I mean, it's just that's how it gets started, I guess, and it's really blossomed in the United States for sure.
Yeah, I certainly have. Our guest, Craig Patrick, Hockey Hall of Famer. He's the commissioner of 3 Ice. Starts up summer of 2021, and we look forward to that and building a good relationship with the company as well. But Craig, I've been dying to ask you this for some time. You may notice the jersey behind me to my left of my favorite player, my boyhood idol. I'm from Winnipeg, born and raised. There was a rumor back in 1990 when Mike Smith, the general manager of the Winnipeg Jets, opened discussions with various NHL teams of the trading of Dale Hawerchuk, that you and the Penguins were interested. I don't see why most teams wouldn't be interested in a Dale Hawerchuk, but did it ever come down to it? Because there was an urban legend that says that Mike Smith wanted that 5th overall pick, which was eventually Jaromir Jagr.
Mhm.
Did this conversation ever take place? Because the Winnipegger in me is dying to know of anything that happened, and anything you could tell me about, I'd really appreciate as a massive fan of the game.
Yeah. Well, first I want to say, Dale, I went into the Hall of Fame with Dale, and I didn't know him, but what an awesome young man. I really enjoyed meeting him, spending a good weekend with him. It was an awesome guy. And I know Dale was mentioned, and I know it could have been in the Jagr year. We were pretty sure we were going to get Jagr, so we listened to people, but we really weren't interested in making a trade for that pick.
Probably a smart move too, eh?
Yeah. The other guy was pretty good too. Probably. It's funny too, Craig, when I look at, and again, to bring up our good friend Pierre Maguire, who I said, because I didn't know a lot about Pittsburgh. I went down to the entry draft years ago. And so being in Toronto and being, of course, that means being smug. And feeling superior, I thought, well, what exactly is Pittsburgh going to look like? Is it going to be this way? And so, of course, because we have Hamilton, Ontario, not that far away, Steel City, blah, blah, blah. I thought I knew exactly and and I tell people this, what a hidden gem it is. Pittsburgh is I had just the greatest time. It's aesthetically beautiful. They've worked real hard on going from one kind of industry into another. You just look at not only the rink, but you look at PNC Park. You just look at what they have done. And I tell people, for a sports weekend, you probably can't pick a better town than Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh, I thought, were incredibly nice people, and the Allegheny Mountains all around it. Pittsburgh's a little bit of a hidden gem, isn't it? I think it is.
It definitely is. It's more like a Midwestern city for me. Similar to me, it's similar to St. Louis, same kind of people, really, really friendly. And when I played in the NHL, it was in the 70s, and we'd come into Pittsburgh, and I'd think, who would ever want to live here? I've been here 30-something years now, so it's an awesome place. It's an awesome place to live.
Well, everything you've done has kind of turned out okay, I think, historically, when you look at what you have done. And this is just one new challenge. I know you look forward to it, and it's going to be very exciting because the genesis of it is certainly there. All the pieces are in place, and we're going to love seeing who doesn't want to see like 3-on-3. It's just so popular, and you're going to have some real talents and guys that maybe some guys who are really going to shine that maybe unexpectedly, and that's always the thing about sport. You think but you kind of don't until you lace them up. So I'm just thrilled, Craig, that you actually joined us here this morning. And I know David is, because he was been itching. How long you been itching to ask that question, Dave? About
1990.
Oh, fantastic. Well, best of luck, Craig. And if we get a chance to talk to you again, and certainly the people involved, we would love to do it, because it's been great here this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Thanks very much. Thank you, David. Thanks. It's good to be on your show.
Thank you.
That is
Craig. I have to apologize for
Yes.
my wife popping in accidentally early on.
I wish we were recording, because that was one of the funniest things I've seen in the last couple of years. That was sensational.
She's quick.
Yeah, I was thinking, well, Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't move that quickly. Well, you tell her we said hi, and that was great to see her too.
Thank you.
Craig Patrick joining us here. He is the new commissioner of 3 Ice, joining us here this morning on Raw. Mike Richards. It is